Hello and welcome to today's Partner Web Conference. This is Fast Track Dynamics 365 for Talent Tech Talk. Today's topic, Talent Integration. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Senior Program Manager Neelima Gudavalli. And joining Neelima, we have Senior R&D Solution Architect Mo Alawa. So without any further delay, Neelima, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Janice. Morning, everyone. So today's topic is Talent to Finance and Operations Integration. And with me, Mo, joining in. So we have a lot of content to get through. So let's just quickly move on to the topics that we are covering today. So we would like to cover talent architecture, a brief overview supported by CDS for Apps now. And then we also wanted to talk about a little bit about the talent integration patterns that we have in the product today. And then comes the topic of data integrator, a proof overview, and then the integral parts of the data integrator, the concepts, and then we will discuss about the talent to finance operations business requirement and the scenarios where you have to use this integration pattern, and then followed by a brief demo which will help you to understand how to set up a projects and add a new tasks and customize the projects, etc. And then we also wanted to cover an exception handling and common scenarios. So these are the exception and usually you may come across when you are setting up a project, but this would we have listed most of it, and this would help you to troubleshoot your system when you are executing this project. So these are the list of the topics that we would cover during the session, and then let's just move on to the first topic, that's talent architecture. So most of you probably by this time aware that we have modular talent apps. That's you see on the left side of this, and then you also have the HR core application. So modular talent apps is like comprised of attract and onboard, and HR core itself as HR core. So these apps, if you see that, they're connected through a CDS, Common Data Services for Apps. So modular apps directly read in data from CDS, and HR core has an intermediate data access layer which just manages the data, but the read and write from HR core to CDS for apps is almost real time. So if I take you through a scenario, so how it actually benefits the business applications or your business processes, let's talk about the scenario. So you are aware that attract and onboard and whatever the modular apps or experience apps we call here as manages the candidate recruitment process. Let's say the candidate is processed in the modular apps, which is in the attract, and then now he's offered a job and he accepted an offer. So that means there is a status change on the candidate that he was offered a job and he accepted an offer and he's ready to be hired. So he will be hired as a worker in the HR core application because HR core is the application which manages the worker life cycle. So now a person, a hiring person sitting in the HR core application, if he needs to understand that there is a candidate who has an offer accepted state or who accepted an offer and is ready to be hired, how does he understand that? So by virtue of having this seamless integration, what the system seamlessly does for you is it takes the candidate who is in the offer accepted status and ready to be joined in your organization and pops him back into the HR core dashboard so that the person who's supposed to hire a candidate will see this notification or will see the style on the dashboard indicating him that he's ready to be hired. So that's happening because these two apps like experience apps and HR core talks through a common data model called CDS and access the data tables. So that's the data flow that is right now established between the apps, and CDS being the data layer for both these apps and talent. So in the next slide, we will see a little bit about the demo about how this data flow happens from modular talent app and as well as HR core, how this read and write happens. So let me switch you over to setup which help us to give you this demo. So the screen that I'm displaying here right now is the screen for experience apps. That's nothing but our attract. It has a job, and then if I click the job, you also will see the list of the candidates assigned. Now let's see that in CDS, we said that this particular data will exist in the CDS. So let's understand and see it in the CDS, how this data will pop up for you. So this is a candidate entity, and now what I have done is I've exported the data to Excel to make it a little bit more clear for you. So if you see that it has three records available, the candidate number 1000, 1001, and 1002. And now let me just add one more candidate here to test the data flow. I'm just adding an external candidate here. You can add both internal and external. I'm adding an external. So the applicant is added. And this applicant, once after he's added it, he would be immediately put back into the recruiting process. But you see that right now there are 4 applicants in the application. So now you might want to see this data in the CDS. So let me just go here. This is the data that is extracted from the CDS entity into an Excel to make it more, to give you guys more clear view. So what I'm going to do is, these are the 3 records previously exist. I'm going to refresh this so that it extracts the data from the, sorry, I just need to log in back probably. Let me just quickly open this again. Maybe I can show you the data here. So if you see that there's a 4th row that is added right now into the system, and let me show you the row. So this is kala@gmail.com. So that means the data that is added into the application is real time. So whatever the edits that you do, it immediately pops up in the CDS. So now what if I change the data here? Will it update it back to the application? Let's take that example as well. So I'm going to take you through a different entity now. Let's try the different entity. That's job function. So the data is already available. So this is a data that's right now there for the job function. Let's change the data here. I am changing it. I'm adding it one more record. Integration demo is my user. You can just add it, or it will also automatically pop this up. And I'm publishing these changes. That means since because I've added a new record, I'll just publish it and say yes. So it says that publish was successful. That means it updated the entity in CDS. I'm refreshing the data. So you see this data is right now available. Now I have to go back and see in the system that whether this data is available or not. Let me just quickly open the app here. So do you see that the data is already added here? So these are the list of the data tables, the data values that exist in the CDS, and you see that the data is refreshed back here. So that's the data flow that we have today. That means like be it an experience app or HR core, whatever the updates that we do in the experience app HR core, that immediately populated back into the CDS. But if you are changing the entities in the CDS, or if you are editing or adding a new record, it would pop up back into the HR core as well as the CDS for apps. So that's the story that we wanted to tell here with the talent right now. So now moving on to the next topic that we have. Sorry. So we have established now that like talent is connected to CDS and the data flow is almost seamless, in the real time. So we can read and write data back into the CDS and extract the data back into the application, whatever the changes that are done in the CDS. Now let's just quickly understand the existing integration patterns that we have in the talent. So I would like to draw your attention to this first integration pattern, where you see that there are a lot of, we have this Power Platform story where you have the CDS in combination with the Power Platform can do a lot of things, which includes an integration with the third parties and the Power Apps and Flow. The Power Platform story talks about. But now when it comes to integration has a connectors and gateways, and there are a lot of default connectors available actually. Some of the examples, if I have to take, it's an SAP and Workday, and there are other third-party systems also you can connect. But what if you wanted to connect an external system for which the default connector is not available? So you can do that. We have the ProDev extensibility approach, using which you can create a custom connector. Linking the data or setting up a project using which you extract the data from CDS to finance and operations, the topic of the hour. So the reason why you see this arrow like this, because in the first demo that we just did, we established that the data flow from HR core and the experience apps to CDS is a seamless and real-time integration. That means whatever the data updates that you are going to do here, so that data will be populated back into the CDS. So as a next step, you will be connecting this data to a third part, the first party application here. That's a finance and operations, which is a topic of our, which we are going to discuss extensively in the next slides and as well as in the demo. And then the third pattern we have is Dayforce payroll integration, wherein what we would be doing is you will be exporting the employee master data for Dayforce to process your payroll. So using this Dayforce payroll integration underlying uses DMF concept, and the output from Dayforce payroll integration is a GL, which will be taken up by the finance and operations system for further processing. And then you also have the well-known integration pattern DMF, using which you can set up a project with a set of entities that for which you wanted to export and import data. So these are all the different patterns that we have, and you can pick and choose the pattern that you want based on the need of the hour and the scenario that you are targeting for. So let's just quickly move on to the topic of the hour, the common data service to finance and operations, which is in turn talent to finance and operations. So when we talk about an integration pattern that exists between these two systems, we need to talk about DI. So what is data integrator? DI stands for data integrator. So data integrator lets you build an end-to-end view of your business data by making Dynamics 365 data available in common data service in general. So it's specific to talent. Also, yes, because talent is one of the first-party application and finance and operations is a first-party application. So it will help you to establish a data flow from talent to finance and operations using CDS. So often we see a lot of questions with a little bit of confusion as to what is CDS and CDS data integrator, whether they're same or different. These two are two different concepts. CDS is all about data, and the DI integrator is built on top of it to enable the data flow. So you have seen this, like we talked about the common data model with all those entity sets here, and then you have the applications here, and this is what data integrator does for us is at a brief overview. So, and there are also certain key features that data integrator has. And all of these key features are enabled within the talent to finance and operations integration pattern as well. So you can customize your projects and you can transform the data, and then you can monitor your project execution and troubleshoot errors and exceptions. So these are all the features that Data Integrator as a framework brings up, and these features we would also be using in the pattern that we are going to discuss, which is talent to finance and operations integration. So let's delve a little bit more into the Data Integrator. We have discussed overview, and let's understand its constituents. So basically, if you see this slide, these are all the basic constituents of Data Integrator. So you have OOB templates, and then you also have the connection sets, and then you also have the projects. So what is OOB template? This is a templates that are shipped by Microsoft with the predefined mappings, predefined entity mappings. The entity mappings I refer here as entity mapping between the source system and the target system. That is the OOB template. Then you can also create your own template. And what is exactly the connection set? The connection set, basically, it actually wraps the connections. When you say that the data flow, you have a source system and target system. So you need to define which source system, which environment that you wanted to use to which environment that you wanted to use as a target. So that connections that you create for defining your source and target is wrapped by a connection set. Connection set is a combination of a connection and as well as the organizational mappings. What is an organizational mapping? Let's say, for example, when you are saying that I wanted to transfer data between the source and target, you will say that you may want to say that, okay, from this XYZ entity, from this XYZ legal entity, I wanted to transfer the data from some AWS legal entity. So those mappings, that is called organizational mappings. So connection set wraps both connections and organizational mappings. And also, basically, when we talk about the templates, we have already discussed that it has a set of executable mappings. So templates and connection set is part of a project. That means when you create a project, you will tell the Data Integrator that what is the template that you wanted to use and what is the connection set that you wanted to use. And remember, the connection set as encompasses of itself as, with the source and target environments linked through connections, which has also a credentials. So that's how you create a project, and you put this project to an execution mode so that it runs and transfers the data which is supported by predefined entity mappings and connection set. So you can run a project in a batch mode or an ad hoc basis. So this is the overall constituents of the data integration platform, but let's understand each of this constituent in detail. So when you say that project, we have seen that the project it wraps connection set and templates. That means like it has a set of executable mappings, and then you can execute this project in a batch mode and as well as an ad hoc mode. And when you create a project, these projects are visible to the user who creates it. And I just wanted to draw your attention to the last point, which is very important. Project can be saved as a template. So why we wanted to save it as a template, and what is the objective that we are going to derive, or the end result we are going to derive by doing that? Let's understand a little bit more about that in the next slide. The context of this topic point is linked with the template. So, and this is a brief picture how you see in the data integration, basically the admin view, where you see the total number of runs and then error handling and the statistics about it. So when you go to the template, Microsoft ships out-of-box templates with a set of executable mappings. But let's say, for example, there is a business case that you wanted to add a leave entity to these mappings, or some candidate entity to these mappings in your own way. So that means you wanted to modify the existing template, out-of-box template, and then you wanted to extend its use to another entities, be it a standard or custom entity. Can you do that? Yes, the answer is yes. When you modify a template, you modify it in the context of the project. That means when you create a project, we all know now that it wraps a template. So you are modifying a template by adding a new task, which includes a new entity mappings, then that is applicable within the context of this project. But let's say one of your colleague wants to use the template with the changes that you have done. How do you preserve these changes? So the way of preserving the changes or customizations that you have done to template, in other way that the new tasks that you have added to the template, is by saving the project as a template. That goes back to the previous point we discussed here. Project can be saved as a template. The moment you save the project as a template, whatever the customizations that you have done to template by adding a new tasks and entity mappings will be saved in the form of a new template, so that your colleagues or organization or anyone from your tenant can use that new template with all the changes you have done for setting up a project. So when you say that the template is done, template is available, what is the visibility of the template? Anyone in your tenant can see this template. But let's say, can you share this template across the tenants? The answer is it's coming soon. We are calling that sharing process across the tenant as a marketplace concept. So we're very soon going to ship that feature as well. So this is a basic view of the template where you see that all the tasks with the mapping. So each of this mapping is a task, and if you wanted to add a new task, you just press this add task and then create a new task, which helps you to map the entities that you wanted to map. And then the other topic that I wanted to discuss here, which is a term that I'm introducing, is integration key. What is this integration key? Basically, when your external third party, be it a first party, if it wants to identify a record transferred through a data integration, how it identifies a record. Just let's take a simple example of worker. So worker, some third-party system or a finance and operations system, in this case, wants to identify a worker record. If I say that worker number is 123, yes, that's the identification number. So that identification number, that means for every entity setup that you do in the DI, you need to make sure that your third-party system or the first-party system, the destination system I should call it as, should identify that record. The way of identifying that record with the help is integration key. The reason why we calling this concept is, I wanted to draw your attention to the first point. It comes with the ZUID as a primary key, but that doesn't have a natural key. But let's say if you have the ZUID with some X, Y, Z, and L, can the finance and operations identify the worker record? Definitely not. So you need to define a key which helps the destination system or the target system identifies that record, that we are calling it as a natural key. So maybe the next question, probably you may be thinking, oh, should I define the natural keys when I'm defining the project for the template that is available right now? Because we are shipping the out-of-box template for talent to finance and operation integration with a set of entity mappings. So should I set up an integration keys, natural keys for this template? The answer is no. When we are shipping this template with the set of mappings, you also get the default natural keys defined for all these mappings. But you need this concept and understanding of the concept when you want it to change your project by adding an extra task and extra entities. When you add a new entity into the project and when you define the mappings, you might want to go back and check your integration key to make sure that there is a natural key which uniquely identifies this record in the source system as well as the target system. That's how the export will be successful. So let's just quickly move on to the next slide. Sorry, I also wanted to draw your attention to this simple picture here. So if you see that this is the set of the integration keys that are defined here, but these are all the set of the standard entity mappings that are readily available in the out-of-box template from Talent to FinOps. So this automatically, the setup, you will be seeing it. The natural keys are already defined. The integration keys are already defined. You don't have to worry about that. So this is required when you are just changing or modifying the project by adding a new entities. So I'm just moving on to the scenarios. Why do we need to establish this integration, talent to FinOps integration? What is the basic purpose? There could be a number of scenarios that you usually come across with the different situations and scenarios, but I wanted to quickly talk about the three different important scenarios wherein maybe your finance and operation system has a time tracking enabled and you need to understand the worker master data. The finance and operations system needs to get the worker master data to be able to process their time because it needs the holiday calendars as an input. It needs leaves as an input. The holiday calendars and leave setup is there in the talent, so and worker master record as well. So you might want to integrate your talent to finance and operations to get this data. That's one of the scenario. And the second scenario is, for that matter, any workflow within the finance and operations. Let's say be it be a purchase order workflow or be it be any other workflow or some expense reimbursement workflow, you need worker data and you need organizational hierarchies because the steps in the workflow, especially the approval process, needs to identify the approver, which is your manager, perhaps your employee manager. So that means you need a set of data from talent to FinOps. I would call this as a worker mini master sometimes for some of the basic scenarios. Basically, you may not need the entire data set. Probably you need a mini master, which helps finance and operations to identify who the manager is and who the approver is in the approval process. And it depends on the scenario. You might want to choose how much data you wanted to pass from talent to finance and operations, be it be a complete records or be it be a sum of the fields. So, but this particular DI integration setup enables you to do that, enables you to decide what fields you wanted to include, what entities you wanted to include, along with the standard integration template that is readily available for you. So when we talk about the standard, when we are saying that standard integration template, OOB template is readily available with the set of the mappings, what are those mappings? Here is the answer. So these are the entities that are readily available in the out-of-box template that we are shipping for talent to finance and operations integration. So, and these are falls into two different buckets. One is the worker and the other one is the organizational hierarchies. So because these are the basic entities that you definitely need for any job that you wanted to perform in the finance and operations. However, not limiting to these entities, you can always add a task and create a new entity mappings. So here, this is the overall concept that we wanted to talk about. So I probably would be handing over to a demo part now here from here, and more continue further in helping taking you through the demo. So probably the steps that we wanted to cover in the demo is like how can you establish or set up a project with the OOB template, and then we can also demo you adding a new tasks where you will be adding a new entities or the which could be a default or the custom entities. So let me just hand over to Mo so that he will take you through the demo process. Thanks, everyone. Mo, over to you.
Thank you, Neelima. If you don't mind, just to stay on the line and confirm once you can see my screen, just to make sure that we have switched over.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so you should be able to see my screen at this point.
Not yet. Yes, I can see it.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So as Neelima explained, we have already covered the concepts, and it's time to show you a few demos. I want to show you two basic concepts. The first one is how do you set up the integration using the standard template that we shipped for the core HR to finance and operation integration. And once we've done that, and once we've seen the standard data moving across, I want then to show you how much you can extend and how much you can customize with that template. So without further ado, I'll just switch to my browser, and we will start with the Power Apps. So the idea is, as Neelima explained, by just launching your browser and go to powerapps.com. Once we're there, we can sign in. And in this example, I'm using a demo user for the purpose of this demo, and a demo organization as well. So in different places, you might find that I'm using an integration demo user. So once you are in the Power Apps screen, you can go to Data, Connections, and that will be the place to create your connections. So you can go ahead and click on New Connections, and that will show you a list of out-of-the-box connections. What you will notice first is that the connection is basically allows you to select the type of the application that you want to connect to, so that whether that's CDS, Dynamics 365 for customer engagement, finance and operation, or even non-Dynamics and non-Microsoft applications, as you can see on the screen. In my case, we know to move data from talent to finance and operation. And as Neelima has already showed you, the data in talent is seamlessly integrated with CDS. So from a data integrator perspective, from this point onward, we're actually not moving data from talent per se, we're moving it from CDS. So the connections we need are a connection to Common Data Service and another connection to finance and operation. So I will go ahead and I will create the first connection here to Common Data Service. And what you will notice is the connection not only gives you the chance to decide the type of the application you want to connect to, but it will also decide which user are you using to connect to that application. So if you are a customer or using a customer account, you don't need to worry about that, and you can continue with the same account that you are using in Power Apps. But for partners, if you have partners on this call, sometimes a partner might use a partner account, so under a different organization, and they want to connect to customer environments. And in that case, maybe you just need to check that you are using the right account. And in we will see it in the next step. If you have connected and then you cannot see the list, you cannot see the environment that you're looking for in the list of the environments, most probably you're using connection in the wrong organization. So I will go ahead and create connections for my actual account under Microsoft organization, just because we already have connections for the integration demo account. I will do that first for CDS. And once we've signed in and created that, I will create the same for finance and operation. What you will also notice that we call this connector still Dynamics 365 for operations. And don't worry about that. It's the same connector. It connects you to finance and operation. And then I will do the same and repeat the same task here as well. Once those connections are established, that should be the last time you need to go to Power Apps. And from that point onward, all your work needs to happen on the data integrator side of things. So to get to the data integrator, you need to go to the Power Apps admin portal, and you can do that by either switching from the gear icon here, going to the admin center link, or you can simply type on your browser admin.powerapps.com. Once you have gone to the admin center, you will be welcomed by this page. And in the admin center, you can basically do two things. You can administrate the environments that you have for Power Apps and CDS, or you can switch to the data integration tab as we are doing here. So since we've already created connections, the next step here is to create connection sets. I will go ahead and create a new connection set. And you will see that the purpose of the connection set is to link these two connections that you have picked, and it will also allow you to select individual environments or instances. So if you noticed in the connection, when we were creating connections, we simply we chose two things. We selected which environment, which application are we connecting to, but we did not specify a specific environment or instance, and we decided which user we're using in that connection. So I'll go ahead and I will create a TechTalk demo connection set, and I will be able to select my different connections. Just to show the idea, to highlight the list of environments that you can see and how is that different based on the organization you are connecting to. I know that the environment I want to connect to in finance and operations side is called SA Sandbox, and I know that that environment is only available under this organization, axsolutions.architecture.com. So if I switch my account to a different organization, you will see that the list of the environment is different. And if I search for the same environment, that doesn't exist anymore. So if you run into this issue, just make sure that you are using the account of the appropriate organization. So I will go ahead, I will connect to my finance and operation instance first, and then I will continue with my CDS connection. For CDS, you will notice that we only have a default environment. So make sure that you are creating and choosing the right CDS connection. Make sure that you are creating your CDS connection in the right CDS environment that belongs to your talent environment. So I will go ahead and pick the default environment, and the last step is to do our organization mapping. So I'm mapping my FinOps legal entities, and in our case we are using a demo environment, so the list of the organizations we're getting from there are the demo legal entities, and in my case I will map my US legal entity to the default organization that's in CDS. To get to that default organization name, it's usually part of your CDS instance name as well. So I'll take that from here and just copy and paste and save that. Now, once the connection set is established, you have basically done the basic setup to link two environments together and pick which users you want to use. From the connection set as well, you can go and get one step further, and you can see the list of the integration keys. So as Neelima explained, the integration keys are relevant in two cases. Whether you are importing data to CDS or Dynamics 365 for customer engagement, it's very important to know what are the integration keys for each entity, because that will decide whether we are creating or updating existing records in the target environment. But in our case, we're not importing the data into CDS, right? We're simply exporting from CDS. And in that case, the integration keys are useful because they are used when you are using joins and when you're using reference keys and foreign keys. So at that point, because we are using the standard templates, this list of integration key will be auto-populated for you. You don't have to worry about it. But in the case where you extend and customize your projects and you include new entities that we haven't mapped before, you might want to come back here and make sure that you select the integration key. So that's it. We've created the connections and the connection sets, and it's time to create my project. I will go ahead and create a new project from the out-of-the-box template. So once you've reached the screen, you will be able to give your project a name. So I'm just going to call it TechTalk Demo Project. And from that, you can see the list of templates. I will simply sort it by authors just to show you the standard Microsoft templates first. And as you can see, we have the core HR standard template. This template is not only visible to us at Microsoft, it's visible globally because we published that last month. So you should be able to see it in your data integrator, whether you are a customer or partner. So from that point onward, I'll just simply build it all together by picking the right connection set and the required organization mapping and go ahead with the confirmation. Now this project is valid and ready to be executed, and once we run it, it will start moving the data across. I will not run this individual project in our demo because it will take around 30 minutes to finish and we don't have that time. But I will take you through the basics, and I will run another project which I've already prepared ahead of the time. So in this project, you will see the first thing you will see is the list of tasks, and each task represents an entity level mapping. So basically what we have here is 13 tasks, as you can see, and that means that we are mapping 13 entities from CDS to finance and operation. As Neelima mentioned, the first 8 tasks are related to the organization structure and any reference data used by workers before we move the worker data to finance and operation. So we are moving the job functions, jobs and their details, positions and the rest of it. And then once that is in the system, we continue with the worker and its related information. This list comes with the standard template, but it's not the final list. You can extend it. You can either go to individual entity mapping and add your own fields, or you can add more entities to this project. So from each entity, you can go ahead and go to one step further, and you can see the actual field level mapping. So what we can see here is for the job functions, we have job function name from CDS mapped to job function ID in finance and operation, and we have the same for description. So as you can tell, this is a basic mapping, but from the same form, you can do more complex and more advanced scenarios. We have another feature that we will just touch on. We will not have the time to go through. We call that advanced query or power query, and that will give you the chance to filter and transform the data in more advanced scenarios. Whether you want to enrich it or reshape it, all of that is going to be possible. So let me first, before continue explaining this project, I will just prepare some data in talent and finance and operation to show you what does it look like currently. We will go ahead and run a project and come back just to see that data moving across as expected. So for the purpose of the demo, I want to show you, I will continue with the job function entity as Neelima has showed us, and we will, Neelima has already created a record there, and I will update one of the other records as well. I want then to show you the same data in finance and operation before running any integrations, and I will simply show you that the data exists in talent but doesn't exist in finance and operation yet. We will go ahead then run our project and see the data flowing across. So this is talent and this is finance and operation. I will go ahead in talent first, and I will go to the job functions form. And as you can see, we have the new record that Neelima has added, and I will be also changing one of the existing records. So I will just change the executives record to say updated from talent. We'll just save that, and we will go to finance and operation and go to the same place. So if you go here to job functions, and you can see in this list, we're missing the technical managers 3 record, and we're missing the update on the executives. So let me just go ahead first and run my project, and I will take you through what happens during that process. So to run a project, you can either run it manually, or you can do that automatically through scheduling. In this case, we will just run that manually. So we can go ahead and run the project. What that will do, it will create a new execution under the execution history, as you can see, and the synchronization between the two systems will start. You can keep this page as you can see, we just moved from 2 seconds to 23 seconds, or you can go one step further and click on that, and that will be able to show you the details of each individual task. So if we leave this page long enough, maybe a minute or two, we will be able to see 2 records moving from CDS to finance and operation, and we will be able to see them as 2 upserts, and in our case, we can tell that 1 record is created and another record has been updated. If you don't like to wait here and you want to see what happens under the hood, basically the data integrator has 2 ways to connect to each application. So what I meant by that, data integrator connects to CDS or Dynamics 365 for customer engagement by using OData, while it does the same to finance and operation by using data management framework. So what's happening behind the scenes, DI goes to CDS, gets the data through OData, and then creates and prepares a data package, and go to finance and operation and import that data package through the APIs. So if you wanted to troubleshoot, or if you wanted to see what's going on, you can simply go to your finance and operation environment, and you can go to the data management workspace, and you should be able to see the executions of those data packages happening as we speak. So I will just go to finance and operation, and I will show you under the job history that we can see the import coming from DI. as you can see here. So the first task has executed successfully. We can go to the execution details, and we can be able to see that we have received 2 records from CDS. One is created and another one is updated. And to close this properly, if I refresh in finance and operation, you should be able to see the new record and the updated record. So that's it. That's the standard template. There are 13 tasks. The project will take some time to finish executing end to end, so we will not wait for that. But I just want to go back to the project to show you a few other features there as well. So we'll keep that running, but we will just go back to the project. And I just want to touch on the scheduling tab. So from this scheduling tab, as you can tell, you can schedule the project to run in the background, almost like a batch job if you are from a finance and operation background. And we allow you to schedule the job on different frequencies, so whether you want to do it every minute, every hour, every day, and so on and so forth. What I would encourage you not to do is to try to run this every minute or 5 minutes, and there are different reasons for that. The first reason is if you try to run the integration too frequently, you could be impacting the performance either on source or destination. So you could be slowing your CDS or finance and operation systems. Also, the project takes around 15 minutes to execute with these 13 tasks, even without any data changes. And the reason for that is each task takes around 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. So even if you try to schedule this every minute or every 5 minutes, it will have to wait for the existing execution to finish before it can schedule the other one. So don't try to schedule that every 5 minutes and then think it's broken. You need to schedule it 15 minutes or more. And ideally, I would think for a common HR scenario, you would want to schedule it maybe once or twice a day rather than with a minute frequency. Also, one of the features here is notifications, and I would encourage you, once you've during development stage, it's fine not to activate notifications, and it's fine to expect errors. But once you started your UAT, or once you started to go to production, this is very important, because sometimes the integration would fail because there are some missing fields, there are some data that needs massaging, there are some missing references data. So there are different valid reasons why the execution could fail, and you wouldn't want to know about that reactively, like after a day or two. So it's preferable you activate the notifications, and basically when any failure happens, DI will send you an email with the details and with the link to go to the execution history and see exactly what happened. So that's it for now for the standard integration. I hope that first part is clearly covered, and we will go ahead and cover the second part. So in the second part, I simply want to show you how much you can customize those standard templates, and I'll just talk about. I'll touch about the scenario that we are trying to achieve here, and then I will show you the specifics. So in our scenario, we want to be able to move the leave requests and the leave management data from talent to finance and operation. And the purpose of that, we have a company that is running its payroll in finance and operation. They have purchased some payroll ISV solution, and they have installed it there. And that payroll solution doesn't only need the worker data, it also needs the leave requests, what has been approved, how many sick days, and so on and so forth, to calculate the employee salaries properly. And that ISV, this is, we are talking about a fictional scenario, that ISV has created some basic leave management functionality in finance and operation with some custom data entities that allows you either to use that functionality in finance and operation, or you can move your data from other systems. So I will just show you quickly what that functionality looks like. It's just few forms and few custom entities, and we will go ahead to Data Integrator, and we will try to create a new project that links that data together. So I'll switch back to my finance and operation, and within that we have created the leave requests form. If you try to go to that form in your environment in finance and operation, you will not find it because that's custom entity, and in our case, like a fictional ISV solution. So this is the leave request form. What you can see is we can maintain the list of leave requests, and for each leave request we have the leave request details as well. That can then be used by the payroll logic to calculate the salaries and to calculate any deductions or whatever is needed there. We have similar functionality in Talent. That's a native functionality that comes out of the box. That's leave and absence requests. And as we can see, we have some data there. So we have around 15 records. So my idea is I want to be able to bring those leave requests from Talent to Finance and Operation. The first step is to get to the right entities in CDS, and we know that we can see all that leave data in CDS, so that's a good tick box. And then I want to be able to move that data to Finance and Operation. And for that, as I mentioned, we have already created some custom entities. So the first question you would think about is how can I create a blank project that allows me then to move data across? And the answer is you cannot do that. There is no out-of-the-box blank template, but what you can do is you can start from the standard template like we did here. So I will go back to my TechTalk project, and you can simply either keep the existing mapping and add more to it, or you can just delete all of them, and that will give you a blank start. So you can start from the blank project. I will not delete all of these tasks now because it will take maybe a minute or two. I will just go back to an already prepared project, and this is my custom project in this case. And you will see I've simply just deleted all tasks from here. What you can do next is to start with your custom entities. So I will call the first task as custom leave types. So I know that I want to create 3 tasks. One to move leave types, the next is to move leave requests, and finally to move the leave request details. From the CDS side, I know that I can see the leave types standard entity, and in the Finance and Operation, I've already created these 3 custom entities. So if I look there, this list will show me all available entities from Finance and Operation. Whether they are standard, custom, it doesn't matter. So I can go ahead, pick my entities and my organization mapping and continue with this. Once the entity level mapping is created, I can go ahead and create field level mapping as well. So in the case of leave types, I know that I need to map the leave type name to leave type ID, and I can map the earning codes as well to the earning code ID, and so on and so forth. Just for the demo purposes, I will not move ahead with all these tasks. I've already created a mapping for this, and I will go ahead and show you that. So this is the leave management integration project. Just by following the same thing, we created these 3 mappings. I can go ahead and run this project now. And this project might take a minute or two to finish. But the idea is once that project finish executing, we should be able to go back to Finance and Operation, refresh this list, and we should be able to see the data coming from Talent. So I will go ahead and continue with the slides, and at the end we will come back to this form just to see the successful execution. So if you give me a second, I'll just go switch back to my slides. All right. So that's the demo covered. The next step is to talk to you about how to handle exceptions. So what you might notice is the first time you start using the data integrator, you might come across into some common problems and common scenarios. And that's fine. We are collecting all these common scenarios here, and please you can ask us for more questions on this TechTalk, and you can provide feedback if you think that there are more other scenarios that we need to include. So the first question is, imagine that you want to filter the data that is coming from CDS. So functionally speaking, you want to send only the active workers and not terminated workers from Talent. Is that possible? The answer is yes. You can use advanced query, and then you can filter and reshape the source data before passing it into destination. Advanced query user interface is very similar to Excel. You can see that you will be able to filter data, to add columns, to use formulas, and lots of different capabilities. The second scenario is, can you change the field level mapping of the standard template? So in other words, can you reduce the number of fields or can you introduce more fields? And the answer is yes, you can add or remove fields for each of the integration tasks as required. Moving ahead, you can. One of the other questions is also if you already scheduled your integration as a batch job and it's automatically running and then you lost the connection to the destination system, how can you recover from that? How you can resend the same data set? So before answering that question, what usually happens if you have already scheduled your integrations and you are deploying any code changes to finance and operation or taking any servicing window, finance and operation will be down during that period. And I would encourage you to unschedule all your integrations, that just put them back to a manual scheduling. And once the finance and operation environment is back online, I would go and reschedule. But in case you forget to do that and you found that integrations are going and throwing errors, there is a way to rerun those executions and you don't need to do anything special. So basically what will happen is Data Integrator will automatically catch and report those errors under the execution history, and it will allow you to manually retry. So for each failed execution, you can just go there, click on it and say rerun. So that is a good thing. However, if you were expecting to change the data in Data Integrator before you move it back to finance and operations, so imagine the data failed because you have some missing information in source or destination and you want to massage the data, you cannot do that in Data Integrator. So you have to either fix it in source or destination. Data Integrator will only allow you to view the data in read-only mode and not necessarily change it. Another scenario is this integration one way or can we set it up as bidirectional? At this point in time, Data Integrator is one way only, so this is not bidirectional. You can use the default template to send data from talent to finance and operation as we showed you. You can customize that, but you cannot use that template to flip the direction and move from finance operations back to talent. Another question is, can you use this integration as part of, does that integration support record deletion? So imagine in talent you had 10 job functions, you deleted 2 of them. Would Data Integrator be able to go to finance and operation and delete the same data? And the answer is no. We do not support data deletion in this integration scenario. We only support data creation and updates, upsert. So if data was deleted in talent and you want it to be deleted in finance and operation, that's a manual thing. It's not supported in the DI. Another scenario is, can you rerun the errored executions? And if so, will it send the full file or only changes? Maybe I didn't touch too much on the execution mechanism, but the idea is when you run the project for the first time, whether you do that manually or through the automation, it will send everything. And then at this point in time, Data Integrator will know where did it stop and which version number for each entity needs to continue for the next integration. So the next time Data Integrator runs, it will pick only the deltas. So if you had any failures and you try to rerun that execution, Data Integrator will know how to pull those specific change sets and the scope of that run, and it will send the most recent data from source. Another error we used to have is when you have mapping errors like this, where it says that there are missing source fields. The correction is you need to check. You might want to check and revisit your integration keys. Those integration keys will be populated out of the box, but if someone has gone to that connection set and maybe removed some of them, you need to correct that. Also, sometimes it happens if you haven't refreshed your entity list in finance and operation. So make sure that you do that as well. Finally, as you noticed in today's presentation, I had to switch between two portals to get this integration done. I had to go between the Power Apps and the Admin Center, and we are improving that experience in a new user interface, and we will give you, we are making it a seamless experience in one place, and we are also giving you some extra capabilities there. So I know we have reached our time here. So before I switch back to Neelima and Janice, I will just want to show you the final part of our demos. I will switch back to finance and operation. And if we refresh, as you can see, we are able to see the data moved properly, and we can see the details of those leave requests. Thank you. Over to you, Neelima.
So Mo, I'll just take 1 minute. There is a common question in the window that people wanted to see the organizational mapping in the connection set, and they're wondering how they can just map. Can we just switch back to that screen quickly?
Yeah, sure. So I'm assuming you can still see my screen, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So did you want me to go to the connection set?
Yes.
Okay.
Organizational mapping, organizational mapping.
Yeah, sure. So this is part of where we created the connection sets. You can see that we have legal entities mapped to organizations. Currently, in Talent, we have a default organization in CDS. So even if you have multiple companies in Talent, for now, as of the time of this TechTalk, we will have one organization in CDS. But in finance and operation, you will have your legal entities there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I think you're good with it. Over to you, Janice. Thanks.
All right, thanks all. Over to you, Janice.
All right, thank you, Mo and Neelima. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a brief moment here and bring your attention to a link that I posted in the Q&A panel. That's a link to a short survey for this web conference, and we ask that you please take a moment before logging out to access it. We hope that you found today's information helpful, and if you enjoyed today's web conference, have feedback on how we can provide you with a better event, or you'd like to suggest topics for future web conferences, this is your chance to let us know. The survey scores are on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the highest score possible. And that is going to conclude today's web conference. Attendees can access the web conference recording by the same registration link that was used to attend today's live broadcast. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters, Mo and Neelima, and thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us today.